Hello, welcome back to lesson 2 on learning how to crochet. I hope that you mastered how to do a foundation chain really well. If the stitches look even, not too big, not too small, and it's not too tight, I think you are ready to move on to do single crochet. So your single crochet project will look like this. It's this small little square here of single crochet. And why do I make small little things? Because if it's not looking right, and I'm kind of like, I'm not sure what's wrong there. Let's just unravel and do it again. All right, so this way it's not so frustrating. If we do something big and then that's wrong and then you have to unravel the whole thing, that's way too frustrating. So tiny little projects, that's the way to go. We don't want anything huge here right now. So this is your little something. And again, you might have to do 2, 3, or 4 of these, okay? And by then, I think your project might be ready to move on to the next thing. All right? So hang in there. Keep sending pictures, and I'll try to answer your questions as much as I can. So let's pick up our yarn again and wrap the yarn around the left hand. So I'll do that one more time if you're still a little unsure on what to do. And keep about 10 to 12 inches to the side. You form a loop, bring the hook in, and we stitch 1, 2, 3, make a knot. There we go. That is stitch 1. Now I'm going to do 22 stitches. 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20, 21, 22. There we go. 22 stitches. Make sure that they all look even and that you don't have stitches that look too tight. So single crochet works like this. You need to have your hook inside this last loop that formed from your last chain you made. Over here you will see this is the first stitch away from the hook, and that's the second one. I'd like you to insert the hook inside the second chain. So let me just take a needle here and show you exactly what I mean. So when we form chains, we see them like 2 loops on each side. That's one chain. 2 loops on the other side. That's the other chain. If you open it up a little bit, there is space for you to insert your hook right there. That's what I mean. So let's bring the hook back here. So that's the first chain from hook, that's the second chain from hook. That's where I want you to insert the hook. There it is. Now it's time for you to grab some yarn from here, just like when you were making the chains. So you bring the yarn in front of, you bring the hook in front of the yarn and then bring it around. Hook the yarn into the hook. Bring that yarn through the first chain right there. Now you have 2 loops on your hook, and you do that same movement again and bring the yarn through both loops. That's your single crochet. Now you go to the next chain. So this is the chain you worked your single crochet into. Now you go to the next chain. Insert the hook and do the same movement again. Bring the yarn through the first chain first. Bring the yarn again through both loops. You got 2 single crochets now. Go to the next chain. And this is how you work your single crochet into every chain you made. There we go. You might have your yarn hooking itself into like the loop itself like that, and it doesn't go through. So you just have to unhook it. Okay, what I mean by that is, you know, the yarn is made out of several tiny, super thin yarn. So if you count, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 thinner pieces of yarn that, if put together, make this, correct? So as you crochet, sometimes the yarn tends to divide itself, and your hook could, for example, it could be inserted in right there in the middle of the actual yarn. So you need to be careful you don't do that. All right, make sure you have the full yarn around, that you don't hook your hook inside the yarn. That's what I mean. It's hard to explain that. Okay, and here too. So that's why these chains here, or these loops, have to be not too tight, otherwise it's a little difficult to bring your yarn through. So this is single crochet, so you should be practicing this until this movement becomes natural, until your single crochets look even. Same idea here with single crochet, is that when you were learning foundation chain, the idea of feeling the yarn through your fingers and the tension of this yarn right here and how you hold the hook. Everything comes together just right to make your stitches look just right. So once you form a single crochet, you see it right there, correct? Whom you are working with, who is teaching you, we call these single crochets, which is what they are, or we can call them stitches. So it's kind of like the same thing. Every time you form a new single crochet, or in the future when you do double crochet or triple crochet, you actually made a stitch. So don't get confused about that. So we are approaching the end, and then we are going to count how many single crochets we made into this chain. Beautiful. So your row should look more or less like this. Okay, and you see your single crochets formed right here. And every time you form a single crochet, if you turn the work up a little bit, you see a chain, correct? Kind of like your foundation chain showing up here again. So it's important now that you count how many single crochets you did into this row. So we chained 22. So let's count how many single crochets that actually made. Okay, way back here in the beginning, when you inserted your hook into the second chain from the hook, this is the first single crochet that was formed. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So you need to make sure now, when we turn around and work back and forth, that you always have 21 single crochets. Okay, so it's always good to stop and count every time you finish a row. Very well. We finished row 1. We're going to go into row number 2. Before we turn around, you chain 1. You just got to do that one chain, okay? Then we turn around, and you might look a little confused, and you're like, where do I insert my hook this time? So I'm going to give you 2 tips. Your hook on this side needs to be inserted on your last single crochet made. So let's just undo that chain I did, okay? So here is that last loop, and so here is that single crochet I want on the other side. Turn it around, that's the hole, okay? So let's go back there again. So I avoid trying to call it just a hole. It's actually a stitch or a single crochet. So I'm gonna do one chain, I'm gonna turn it around. That's the space I want, so turn it around, and here we go. Insert your hook right there in that space. Now, on your first row, you had to insert your hook inside the foundation chain, and you would use only one loop to do that. Now here, if you look carefully, every foundation chain is formed by 2 loops, like that. And I want you to insert the hook from now on into both loops. You may call it, yes, it's that hole, then it's gonna be that hole. I don't like to call it a hole, I just like to call it a stitch. So make sure that you insert your hook every time now inside both loops. And we go from there. There it is. And we do that same movement again. So let's count how many we get to the end. Remember, you always have to have 21. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I will pass forward and meet you at the end. Second from the end, and that is the last one. The last one is usually a little more difficult, so you might have to force it through, because that one was that very first chain you inserted your hook. Remember the second chain from the hook? That was the one. And here we go. Now count if you have 21 single crochets. So here they are. There is my first loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Right there, 21. And remember this, when we turn around is where you want to insert your hook, right there. All right, you got 21. Because if you're not careful, suddenly one row you have 22, and then the other one you have 20, and then 19, and suddenly your work is not looking like a square. It's going to look like a interesting object. So make sure you always count how many stitches you have. So here we go. 1 again, and turn around. So I'm working now into the third row. And this is all that there is to it. So you have to, it's repetitive. And the catch here is to try to make these stitches all look nice and even. So by the end of this work, you will have 21 rows. And it will make a nice square. So I will meet you at the end of the 21 rows, and I'll show you from there how to finish up the work. So here it is, 21 rows after. I got a square. If you're not quite sure where the rows are, I'm gonna show you here right now. The single crochets, they are small. They'll really not become wide. So you have to see, as you look a little farther away from the work, you will see lines forming here. And you could easily think that this is a single crochet and this and this. However, each time I'm pointing you a line, those are 2 rows because they are really small. Actually, 1 row is this small here, small line, and then this small line, and then this one. So those are your rows. They're really very tiny. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I think I said 21 would be enough, but I have the impression that it's not exactly square enough. So I'm just gonna turn around and do 1 more row, and then we will finish up. So now you will need your scissors and your needle. Now you leave that loop right there. Get the scissors. You cut about, yeah, just like that. 12 inches is enough. You get your needle. First of all, you bring that yarn through the loop one more time. Sometimes you don't even need the hook, just bring it through and you form a knot and you pull it tight. All right, now we have to wave in the ends right here where we started and where we ended. So that's sometimes a little bit of a tricky part with crochets, to try to hide the ends. They always can end up showing. So depending what you're doing, you want to hide them really well. And for other things, it's really not a big deal. So for this work here, I simply put my yarn through the needle here and I bring that yarn alongside the side of your square. And I just pull it through. All right. And I do it a couple times. There it is. Sometimes you may do it again on the same spot to make another knot to make sure it's going to be secure. And then you may pull it through the side loops a little further. And at some point you just have to cut. And for dishcloths, I just go and cut. And what worse will happen is that these ends here might end up pulling out and becoming bigger and bigger. For a dishcloth, in my opinion, that is not a big deal, because after all, dishcloths will wear out. Eventually you will just toss them. So it's really not that important for me to be super neat here. In other situations, in other types of work, we might try to hide the ends more carefully, like especially if you're wearing something, if it's a scarf, if it's you know, a sweater, you want to make sure that the ends are tight correctly so that it won't unravel and start opening your garment, right? But when you get there, I'll approach that, okay? So here we go, a couple more times on this side, and here is your first sample. So do a couple of these short, simple projects. Feel free to pick all kinds of colors you want. For now, I have not showed you how to change color yet. We'll get there. Just don't worry about changing colors quite yet. Just do something. You can buy variegated colors, such as this one here. Like, they come in all kinds of colors, so that's kind of fun. All right, so I'm gonna just do one more knot. And thank you for watching. I hope learning how to crochet is being a good experience for you. I hope my videos are clear and that I'm explaining things well enough. So leave me a comment if you're not getting it. Send me a picture of your work if it just doesn't seem like it's turning out any good, even though you have been trying and trying. Send me some pictures. Maybe I can help you find some solutions for what you're facing. If you like this video and it's working for you, how to crochet here with Angela, then please subscribe and we can keep in touch.